you ever let the color of your skin, where you come from, the environment you grew up in, stop you from chasing your dreams, baby, let's get it. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority report, can't ignore being rich from poor and your credit score. See, all I wanna do, educate the masses.
Wait, you were just doing it. I caught you. You were like,
No, it wasn't.
yeah, you were.
I don't know what the noise was. I was recording, so we can go back and check.
We're gonna have to rewatch that. I swear I just caught you. So the last couple weeks I've been thinking. You brought up, I don't know, it was probably like breakfast or something that we were doing, and you were like, I wish I could answer or no, you didn't say I wish. You were like, I've been really thinking about the questions you ask at the end.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about the book. What would be the title of the book that you would write, and what would it be about?
So since we talked to, I want to say it was Doug, I have decided I do want to write a book.
Yeah.
But I don't want to tell you the title.
Okay.
Because I don't want somebody to steal it from me, because it's really good.
But do you have the idea?
Yeah, the idea, I mean, it'll be like general, just kind of
like financial literacy, maybe, or
more mindset type stuff.
Okay.
I think I still have a ways to go to even be in a position where I can say that, hey, this is what you should do to,
yeah.
So I have some things in plan for myself to prove it to myself that I can do it.
Yeah.
Once I kind of have that experiment done, then I think that that's something that I definitely want to do. Because actually, when I spoke with Doug afterwards, I told him, and he was just trying to encourage me to just do it like tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, man, I got to have some kind of legitimacy to it.
I'll be on your ass.
But yeah, it would be mindset type thing, and how you can like.
Yeah, that's kind of with mine. That's definitely what I want to do too. Some mindset, and then obviously kind of like I think I'm gonna mix it, probably like a biography / mindset, because I want people to take something out of it, not just, hey, this is my story,
right? But
here's my story. You can do it too. Basically,
what are the other questions that we asked?
I'll ask you one per episode. Now you want me to interview you now?
No, I'm trying to think. What are you the book and then? Okay, yeah, all right. That's fine.
All right, I'll ask you one more, Dan. What would be the 3?
No. I'll wait anytime.
all right. How was your week though, man?
It was good, man. I spent some time in Waterloo, Iowa.
Yeah, how was that?
It was cool. We went to like this water park with the kids.
Okay.
It's like 5 hours away.
Like an family escape, basically.
Yeah, and then a good friend of ours. It was her daughter's birthday, so we just took her and her boyfriend and the daughter and a friend of theirs, and just spent the night. We were gonna do a 2-night thing, but Friday I had plans, so we just did a Saturday thing, and it was a lot of fun. My son does not like the water, it turns out.
Oh, really?
He loves baths, yeah, but the water park.
I don't know. It might be too soon. He's little.
It was cold too, man. They made no attempt to warm that water up.
Yeah.
It was just too cold. What about you?
But good. Just busy. I'm heading out this week. I'll probably just talk about it on the next podcast or something. But that because I think there's a lot of points on that trip.
But he's getting deported, guys. So he doesn't want to say it.
But I got book of the week. So this one, it's The Magic of Thinking Big. Have you read that one?
No.
Come on, bro.
We never read each other's books.
I will say I'll encourage that one because it's a lot of people think it's cliche, right? Like obviously the title, you're like, okay. But once again, I know we kind of say it on different episodes where it's like, no, it's easy. Like it's super easy, but the hardest part is doing it. Once you start doing the steps that these books give you, your life changes. So obviously think big, right? And I have some notes here. Believe that you can succeed and you will. One of the biggest points that I liked was that they talk about cure your excuses, basically. Excusitis is what he says in the book. But again, all those things you would think from the title. But the notes that I took was one of the things that I liked about the book. Well, I'll kind of go over the things that stood out for me, but be kind. So give everyone a chance. Everybody's good, somewhat good in the inside, really deep for some people. But give everybody a shot, basically. The other one, thinking is possible makes it so. So if you think that, then it makes it so. So basically believe that it can be done. When you believe something can be done, your mind will find ways to do it. Believing a solution pays the way. This is an example that I really like. I loved. So let's say you're in a classroom setting, right? And if you ask all the students, how can we end the prison system? So most people are going to sit there and go, oh, wow, right away, give you reasons how that's not possible. But then once they sit down and start thinking about it in a group, then they start coming up with ideas. And then all of a sudden it is possible. That's really one of the things that stood out there. Another one, ignore the haters. That one was pretty, I don't think he said haters.
Is it worded that way?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's me. But super simple advice. Always, but always smart to remind yourself if someone is a downer, gossiper, naysayer, or just plain mean, ignore them. At the end of the day, if you can spend 80% of your time with positive people or even neutral people, then you're golden. And like with me, for example, there's family or friends that I love, right? But I rather love them from a distance, if that makes sense. Right. Just because of the mindset and all that, like different levels of it. And it makes me think, even one of my buddies, like, this was years ago, he kind of threw it out there, with me rapping and stuff. He was like, oh, when are you going to stop rapping and do something or do a real hobby in your life? And it's like, if I would have listened to them then, now I wouldn't be collecting my royalty checks every couple of weeks, which are pretty nice, So basically, no matter who it is, ignore them, basically, especially when the goals that you have. And then one step at a time, that's another thing that stood out. Make sure you take action, but action doesn't have to be big. And I think that's a misconception with people, that they think that in order for them to change their life, they have to take this massive action, which is great, obviously, if you can do it. But if you're not there yet mentally, then just start slow. Do one thing at a time. I always tell people, even at home, I always have this rule, like, okay, no matter how long my day is, I'll get home and do one thing. And that's just me. Like, that's my advice. Like, to myself, I tell my kids that, the wife, it could be, okay, I'm going to put the load of laundry in and throw it in the dryer after, or I'll pick up the couch today. I'll do one thing, or look at the closet. Okay, I'll fix my closet, or it could be anything small, from small to big, whatever, but at least one thing. And then do more, not less, but take time to think. So if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. And the reason is because being busy forces you to find ruthless efficiency and get things done. So for example, like if you're at work and you ask somebody that wears all these different hats to plan the company party, for example, then I can guarantee you they'll probably knock it out faster than anybody else. One of the examples that basically, like in the military, the person who works the craziest hours, they still find time to work out, to see family, etc. So, and then with my personal example, it makes me think of like friends and family again, where we've talked about my schedule. Like, I'm pretty busy, but I found time to text them and be like, hey, you guys want to go out for dinner, or do you want to get together for this or that? And then, I hear these excuses, right? Like, oh, I have kids or I have my kids this weekend and we're doing this. And it's like, I do too. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, or I got homework, or I got to work tomorrow. Well, me too. So it's one of those things where obviously priorities, right? I totally get it. Everybody has a life, but again, everybody's busy. But as long as you focus on that one thing. And I got a few different notes here. I'll leave it with, let's see. Actually, I got a couple more. There's a couple more things.
Okay, let's wrap it up. We only have an hour. Okay, let's wrap this up.
This book is great, bro. Like I said, especially with the whole mental thing that we've been talking about.
I'm gonna challenge you to leave it to one thing. To one more.
Well, there's a lot of different things, but basically, I'll leave it with the one thing, which is a quote: "Do what you fear, and fear disappears." So think big. Okay. So I'll leave it with that.
Who's the? I don't think you. Who's the author?
I have it on here. I'm bad with authors. David Schwartz. Okay. So The Magic of Thinking Big. I listened to it on audio when I did. So yeah, totally recommend it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, let's bring him in.
No. I'm gonna put an end to that. No, we're on site again at our guest's latest flip. I don't know, these guys are flipping like left and right. It's flipping goals here. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and bring it on in. We got Jeff and Megan.
All right, let's bring him in. You should have done it, Dan.
I tried the one time and you guys just clowned me, man. I'm not doing it again.
That one time you tried it.
One time you traumatized me.
But we're excited today. We are on site. Exciting, like you said, flipping goals, literally. Yeah, we have Megan and Jeff Ahern. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, we've been looking forward to this episode for sure. And we always like to take it back, right? Like at the very beginning. So I would love to hear maybe even before you guys met, where you guys from, and then how you guys met.
And how you met, yeah, for sure.
Ooh.
Ladies first.
I'm from Southern California. So yeah, that's pretty much all that. And then as it pertains to real estate, like my grandparents were in real estate, but they never really talked about it. So they owned commercial real estate. But all I saw as a kid was that they never worked and they always had money. And so I was like, what do y'all do? You know? So that was kind of my eye-opening experience of it.
Okay.
But I never got
So
into,
a very
like,
young age
background
then,
of it.
as a kid, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what part of California?
Corona, if you know where that's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to live in Santa Ana.
Okay,
So
right
Orange
there.
County. So
Yeah.
yep.
Yep,
And then you?
I grew up in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I met Megan in California when I was stationed there. I was in the Marine Corps. So I did that for 12 years and got injured. So I got separated out of that. And so we kind of had to reassess and say, okay, well, what's next? And we were already kind of dabbling in the idea of going into real estate. And we were, starting to read books and listen to podcasts. And we were going to local RIA clubs and networking and trying to immerse ourselves in the world of real estate since we didn't have any experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, we were like, well, let's just go for broke. Let's do it.
Yes.
At the time, the injury was so bad that I couldn't work, and I definitely wasn't going to go back to school because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So
who started or whose idea was it then?
I think it was
probably mine. And then we started kind of Googling it. And then, when you Google something, then the AdWords kind of pop up.
Yeah,
and then we got kind of sucked into it.
That's what I was going to ask you, Jeff, because Megan said that her parents she was kind of around there. Was there anything like that before you met Megan that, like with real estate at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. And I started getting into trouble when I was in college. And so I kind of just was like, I got to get out of Alaska. I joined the Marine Corps. I'm going to go see the world, do something, get some character built. I don't know, figure some things out. Yeah. Ended up staying in a lot longer than I thought I would. And it wasn't until I actually started doing real estate that I realized, wow, this is what I was made for.
Yeah.
And ever since I was a kid, I loved looking at houses. If I went to a friend's house, I wanted to go explore every room. And if I couldn't, it pained me, so I always wanted to see the layouts and this and that, but I never connected the dots on anything. Now I get to look at houses for a living, so nice. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And on behalf of Dan, who were you fighting by or polar bears out there in Alaska? Like, you know why I say that though? Because you did mention it, we're in Nebraska, but I'm a big believer wherever there's poverty. I think there's always you could be anywhere in the world and there's crime or you know what I mean. So anyways, I was just making a joke.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Your hometown in Alaska. I honestly I'm ignorant to all that out there. Just as I was ignorant to Nebraska when I lived in Brooklyn. But what can you describe? I imagine just desolate.
He lives in an igloo. And
yeah, not necessarily that, but what does that look like? I guess.
It's like Nebraska, but colder.
Oh.
Yeah. No, Alaska's beautiful. The summers are incredible. It's the most amazing place, I think, in the country as far as in the summertime. The winters can get a little rough, but Alaska's so big that it's kind of specific on where you're at. Mm. So you could be way north and it's very different than when you're way south. Or I grew up in Fairbanks, which is right in the middle. It's like a tundra, so pretty dry. Pretty warm summers, really cold winters. I mean, we get like probably, I don't know. I mean, the summertime and the summer solstice, it's like it almost doesn't get dark. And in the wintertime, we have very little daylight. But the further north you go, the more extreme that gets. You go up to Barrow, and it will literally be dark for days.
Well, I think of like Life Below Zero. You ever watch that? I'm sure you watch that.
Yeah,
like something like that. Pretty kind of extreme.
But I grew up in a city of about 100,000 people. It's about half the size of Lincoln. Anchorage is a 6-hour drive away. That's the biggest city in Alaska. That's like the size of Omaha. And then everything other than that is pretty much small and remote. And but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same as kind of living anywhere else. It's just less people and less stuff to do unless you like being outdoors.
That's awesome. So you did a lot of hunting too, because it's big on hunting, right?
Yeah, big on hunting, fishing. I did more fishing than hunting. That's just the way it works with my, relationship with my dad and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely like fishing more than hunting.
Yeah.
But,
no, that's awesome. And so, Megan, I always like to pick on that subject where you mentioned that your parents used to do real estate. If you could, whatever you could remember from back then, like what was that seed that they planted? Like what were some of the things that they did that, even to this day you might remember?
What was it, parents or
grandparents?
grandparents?
It was my
grandparents. Okay.
So nothing really.
My grandparents they literally, like I said, they never worked. And then they had 6 kids, like 30 grandkids. And I remember for like probably really young, like 7 or so, I remember sitting around at Christmas and going, wait, you got $50, you got $50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. And I was like, oh my God, like, how do they not run out of money if they're never working? And I was like, I want to do that when I grow up, right? So I asked my dad, like, how do they actually get their money and how does it not run out if they're not working? And I had asked my mom and she said, oh, they live off the interest. And I was like, well, I have a savings account and it's like 6 cents a year or something, So I'm like, that's not true. So I asked my dad and he's like, well, they have rental property. And so they get a check every month. And I was like, okay, I get that.
So definitely stuff that you remember for sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever help around?
No, like they were super hands off. It was like a triple net lease, kind of like commercial. So it really was just like collecting the rent checks. They had, now that I've asked them about it, like they didn't even really talk about it. They weren't excited about it. They were like, yeah, being a landlord sucks. Like, don't do it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but you guys make all half of it. But they had like farmland, so that's also very like super passive. And back in the day when they were like hustling, they had like an 8-unit apartment complex in Riverside. And
nice.
So once you started digging, my grandma was like, one day, we went into this unit to turn it over, and it was just like totally trash, and like they had cats and they ruined everything. And she just walked outside and she was like crying, and her maintenance man came up and was like, I'll help you, like it's okay. And then they end up selling it, for that more passive, like commercial type property.
Yeah. I think we've all had that moment, right?
Like,
you walk into a property. Well, and I always say that, it's like, you get to those moments, but I always try to think of like the positive things and why we do what we do. And it reminds you, like family, obviously, and obviously just creating wealth for the kids. And so anyways, there's all kinds of crazy things, and it kind of washes off that tear, like, oh, okay, I'm good. But okay, so when you guys met, like what was the conversation like, if you don't mind sharing that, where you guys kind of like so you brought it up to Jeff, or how was that?
I think we were married for a while before that ever happened. And the thing is that Jeff and we made good money, So I was a sales rep and I worked in the grocery industry, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I made super decent money. Jeff, Marines, 12 years, he made super decent money. And so it wasn't like,
but we were broke all the time.
Right.
Just we were still living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, and I honestly, at some point we got sober and we quit drinking, and then we were like, wow, look at that, we're rich. Mm-hmm. Like we realized how much money we were spending a month on that. Now, granted, amount of years I spent in the Marine Corps and in the community of the Marine Corps that I was in, we were all very highly functioning alcoholics.
Right, exactly.
So we were going out all the time, and it's California, so everything's, I mean, it's $8 a beer, at super ridiculous prices, and so it was very costly habit, and so we were like, okay, so we downsized and got to a real cheap apartment, got a roommate, quit drinking, saved up all that money, and then we bought our first house.
Was there anything that you guys learned in that process that made you guys do that, or was that just your decisions, or were you guys studying anything at the time?
It was us wanting to
do better.
Well, at that point, I knew I was getting separated from the Marine Corps. It was kind of a long process. I knew that my injury was going to work me out. I had to go on the medical board, and it was kind of a timely process. So we started planning ahead and saying, okay, if we're going to go into real estate, let's start doing this. And so I was still working. I just got put into like an admin kind of position because my back, I couldn't really stand for even like 20 minutes. And so I was sitting in an office doing computer stuff, and then coming home, and then we'd be working on, our next chapter in life. And by the time we got out, we kind of knew enough to get ourselves in trouble. So, but I mean, that's how it kind of got started. So when I finally got out, we sold our house in California, and we made a lot of money on that. That was a live and flip that we did, and sold my car, bought a truck, bought a travel trailer, and sold everything we owned that did not fit in that trailer. And we drove to Nebraska, and we lived in that thing for about a year, and started flipping houses.
Can you expand a little bit on achieving sobriety? I think my wife is a therapist, and some of the work that she's done has been in drug and alcohol counseling. And when she kind of shares with me some of the stories and stuff that she goes through, I guess I never realized until I met her how debilitating alcoholism can be. And can you maybe expand on the challenge it was to get sober? And I would imagine that having gone through something like that, you've been able to grow enough strength or discipline that I think is probably serving you well now.
You know what though? Okay, so I'm gonna take this. We drink a lot. Obviously, that's kind of the definition of an alcoholic. But like Jeff and I were like best friends, and we always have been. And so what really happened was we would kind of start to slow down or want to slow down, but we could never get to that point where we could stop on our own, And so we would only fight when we drank, but we drank all the time. And so then we're fighting all the time, and just like stupid stuff,
like absolutely nothing.
You couldn't even say what it was really about, just that we're drunk and we're being dumb. And so like one night we're playing a board game. We're playing Cash Flow, actually.
Oh yeah.
And we got into like this little bickering match, and it just got way too heated for the silliness of what was happening, right? And it was like, dude, this is not. It was just like a rock bottom moment where we go, I'm not saying, hey, I'm gonna divorce you, but if we keep doing this stupid crap, like I don't see this being a forever situation, And we're both cared enough about each other to just be like, let's fix it. So the only way we knew to do that was just to turn to God and just totally submit ourselves to God. And so we got back into church, and we started like going to church every week, reading our Bible every day, tithing every month. And that was like the catalyst for our sobriety. Like in an instant, we were changed with that.
Yeah, we got sober, and then instantly everything started just lining up and working out, and that was it. It was just getting to the point where we were frustrated with the fact that we couldn't drink. We knew that the drinking was holding us back from any sort of growth. We knew that the drinking was ruining our relationship, and so it's like, I see people everywhere. People that I talk to often are like, "Oh, you're sober. That's great. I wish I could be sober." And it's like, and they just say it in a passing phrase. It's like, but you don't actually wish that. Like, you still love going out and doing that stuff until you hit that. Until you get to the point where you hate it, you're never going to really have the strength to quit. And for us, we got to that point, and we did what we had to do it. And so, and then, I mean, that's how we did it.
How much time was in there?
Like probably the first, like we went to church January 1st or whatever, like the first weekend of the year, and they were doing the series on like putting God first in the year and everything. And then by February 2nd, we got sober.
Wow.
And we went up and we got prayed for, and it was like that. And I remember the Super Bowl was the next day, and so we were like, okay, we can't go to the Super Bowl party. Like we gotta stay home because it was so fresh. And like even when I say like boom, it's like that.
It was hard,
but it doesn't make it easy. It just happened instantly, and it was like a cold turkey thing. But it's still that just like constant struggle. We had to cut out friends. We had to cut out activities. Like just even the dumbest things. Like we would go to Olive Garden, and I would literally be having like anxiety. Like, oh my God, I can't be here because
they come in like, would you like to sample this wine? Yes, yes, I do.
And they use it as like decorations. It's all over. And I was like, oh my God, I can't eat at Olive Garden anymore.
Wow, yeah,
it was like a trigger thing. So we had to cut out a lot of parts of our life.
We had to just go reclusive until we got strong enough and we could go back out again. And we used that time to learn real estate.
Is that why you picked Nebraska then? Like to get away from everything? Because that was my next question.
No, that was because I lost my entire income and was living, and all I had was my VA disability income, which was a fraction of what I was getting paid. And so we knew we couldn't afford to live in California, and if we did, it wouldn't be living. It would just be like we're just here stuck. And so we wanted to find a market where we could start this business and do something with it. So we wanted to find a cheaper market that was safe, that had good, a strong rental market. And so that brought us into the Midwest, and everywhere we were looking, it was like, oh, the numbers look great here, but that's kind of a sketchy area. And the numbers look great here, but I don't want to live there. And then Wade Bartles, who we knew from California, actually from the same church, he was in the Marine Corps briefly, and he's from Lincoln, so he got out of the Marine Corps long before I did, and then he came back here to Lincoln, was working, and they hit us up and said, you should come visit. I think this is the place you're looking for. And we visited, and while we were here, we bought our first house. And then we went back, and then a couple months later, I got out, and we came back and started working on that first house, which we still own.
$55,000.
Jeff wasn't even planning on coming out that time, and I got here and I was like, dude, this is it. Like I came for the eclipse, you know, and I was like, I love this place. Like you have to come out and confirm this for me because I don't want to just make this huge life decision. And so he just like dropped the hat, flew out, and was like, yeah, this is it. So we put an offer on a 100-year-old house, 5-bedroom for $55,000. So you know it's jacked up. And we put an offer in on a triplex and quadplex combo deal for $169,000.
Wow.
Dude.
So you're thinking California,
I'm
that
like,
would have been $1 million.
But I thank God every day we didn't get those 7 units. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
Yeah, right off the bat right there. So I want to real quick just point out, because I definitely relate to that story with God, and you hear that over and over. It seems like there's something there, right? Like once you put God first, things just line up. And it's one of those things where, you know, I grew up, you know, my family was religious, but I didn't take it 100%, and I could do better, you know, for sure. But once you at least start doing the right things, you know, like for me, I wasn't even baptized, for example. I baptized in 2016, you know, so but it seemed like ever since then things just lined up, like and I don't know if you guys, maybe from your experience or books or the Bible, like can you guys maybe add on to that? Because I feel like success comes when you put God first. I don't know if you guys.
Well, yeah, that's sort of the in the Bible, you know, put God first, and all these things will be added unto you, you know, and that's really from that day what we started doing. And so we don't make any decisions without, you know, praying about it and talking about it with each other and confirming with one another. And since we've been intentional about doing that, everything literally has worked out. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't go through some tough times and trials, and we do, but every time we make it through and we're faithful through it, then we just kind of explode afterwards. And so, yeah.
You know, I think too, this is like a weird thing to hear from like not a pastor, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think that tithing, like the first 10th of your income is like such a huge thing. And I honestly think that was like such a huge catalyst for us, because we made like well over $100,000 a year. When we started tithing, that tithe payment was bigger than our rent. It was our highest payment, and we couldn't afford it.
Our rent was $1,600, and we had a roommate, so we were paying $800, and then our tithe was $1,000 a month, and we were like, this is
we don't
now
have the
our
money
most
for that.
expensive bill ever. And we wouldn't have been able to afford it if we were still drinking. So it kind of all works out at the same time, but that was still scary.
Yeah.
And then, but
like when you step out in faith in that, like God's going to be faithful back, and not to like give to get. But this is like not a godly thing to say, but I say it. Like, we started tithing, and I was like, well, I'm going to get my money's worth then. So I started going like to church and to small groups all the time. And I needed that because I had lost my identity of being like a party girl and being like an alcoholic and all that. And I was going through all that. So I needed to fill it with like, who am I then? If I'm
and
not
we didn't have
that
any
anymore.
friends. So it was good for us to get plugged in like that, because like we both had to cut out everyone from our life because, and it wasn't like we were like disowning them. It was just like, hey, sorry, you guys are just always going out and drinking, and we just can't be around that anymore. And then we kind of realized that they just were like, oh yeah, we don't want to hang out with you anyway if you're sober, kind of a deal. So it was like, we realized that we really didn't really have true friends. I mean, with some exceptions, but so I mean, we just had to fill that void with something, and we just
basically like old habits with new, better habits for sure. So yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Like I said, it's definitely a pattern there, I think. But I would like to touch on that house. So you pay $55K. So if you could kind of go over that deal and how, do you guys still own it? Did you guys end up selling it? Or if you could go over that.
So we, it was listed on the MLS. It popped up, and we were driving around with our agent / friend. And so we're like, hey, let's go look at it right now. Making good direct. We put an offer in the same day. It was listed for 50, and we wrote for 55.
No, we did not do a cash offer because at the time we did not have the cash. So we did have, we were doing a loan on that, which we could barely do a loan for that small of an amount because they have like a minimum, you know? And
yeah, we put 20% down on it.
Yeah.
And how was that with the bank? Just because, I mean, you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out in California, right? So what bank took that chance? We were just talking about
it was a local bank,
It was a
but
local
they don't care
bank.
where you live.
And,
okay.
Yeah. And also we still had our income, you know, and Jeff's income. And so we looked like great borrowers.
Yeah.
We were cash heavy, all these things that made us, they're like, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a $44,000.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Who cares? Anyone can make that payment, but.
Yeah. So it was listed at 50,000 and we offered 50,000. And then they got a couple other offers. Cash offers. And I think we wrote a cover letter with our offer. And so I think the seller was kind of like, oh, that's so cute, you know, like a little bit about our story and just, you know, and so then they came back and said, okay, would you guys be willing to do, or can you guys do cash? Because they liked our offer, I guess, but they wanted the cash offer idea, and we were like, we can't, but we could pay more, you know, if we could go to like 55, if that, you know, is okay. And then that's what they did. So they took that, and
we didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would have been our third deal. So we did 2 when we were in California, but that was our third one. It's a 100-year-old house. We didn't know nothing about 100-year-old houses. They don't even have 100-year-old houses in California.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they
a
fall
whole other world.
But yeah, wow. So we thought it was gonna be like a $30,000 rehab, and then we started getting here, chugging along, and we did so much of the work ourselves, and ended up putting another $55,000 into it, and 6 months of our own time. While like we parked the trailer in the backyard, and we're living in the trailer, working on this mouse house, we called it, because it was just bad.
There's a dead mouse in there when we
so many dead
in one of the pictures.
Of the listing.
Yeah, that's the listing picture.
Yeah, we have that picture too.
That's awesome.
You go on our page, on the Acorn Properties page, you'll find it, and you can see the before and afters, and you'll see the mouse.
That's funny.
So we've always called it the mouse house. But yeah, we plugged the trailer into the water, we plugged it into the power, and so we were fine in there. But and then we actually had that trailer. We parked it behind like the next 2 projects too. So we lived in that trailer for almost a year. with
Wow.
with
The
the
two of us
Did
and
you
our
guys
daughter.
He had a kid at this point.
Yeah, she
Okay.
was about 1.
When we moved out here.
She was 1 when she
Yeah.
moved out here. So
And then we got
and it's a-
pregnant like right when we got here. So then I was pregnant and had a 1-year-old in this trailer, and then we're going like almost into the next winter time. I was like, we got to get a house. So
Mhm.
we got a fixer upper house. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I definitely want to touch a little bit on so you parked this trailer. Talk about sacrifice. Like if you guys can just basically explain to our viewers or listeners, what it takes, because we're gonna definitely get into the fun and great things, where we're at right now. But I want to hear that first.
Maybe before you go into that, real quick, can you just, because I don't think we ever covered it, can you mention where you're at now, and then so that way we can see, because it makes more sense if you tell us like how many deals you've done, how long has it been, and then go back to that because it'll be better.
So right now we've done. We just bought number 32 in Lincoln, so 34 total.
In how long?
Deals in 3 years since we moved here.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about sacrifice.
So
go
go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, we're a little bit crazy. So
Yeah, that's true.
we are. I like to think of ourselves as fairly intelligent, competent people. So we know that if we kind of back ourselves into a corner, we're going to figure it out. And, but if we're comfortable, then we won't have to. So it wasn't really that hard for us to kind of just take some risks and make some sacrifices, because we knew that if we hit some bumps along the way, we'd figure it out. So we just went for it. Sold, like I mentioned before, everything, patched a dirt trailer, moved out here. And we just moved that trailer around and parked it behind whatever house we were working on until we found a house for ourselves. And but it just was like, it was hard living in something that small, but it's some of the fondest memories that I have. And I don't know. And even like once we moved into a house, we still couldn't really grow because one of us was always at home. And so we were working at half capacity. So we made another sacrifice and said, okay, well, we need to hire a nanny, but we can't afford one.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't hire one, we'll never afford one. So we just hired one and said, this has to work. And so we made it work. And then, once we both got on the team full time, then it was like,
things just started rolling.
So you guys are like the poster children for burning the boats.
For real. And that's the thing is like, you have to have somewhat of a backup plan. So like we had Jeff's VA money, and that could cover us like just barely, slightly uncomfortably, as long as we didn't have a house payment, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would cover like food, truck, whatever, and like we could live. So we at least had that kind of a cushion. We didn't just quit our jobs and just like hope and dream, but we also backed ourselves enough into a corner that we're like, we got to make this work. Like we're going for broke. We're doing 100%. We have to do this. And then we like throw the nanny on top of it. Like we got to do it at least just to pay for her now, and then it just snowballs. But really you just have to do whatever it is whatever it takes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about just taking risks. You got to take calculated risks. So we always thought it out first, so even like with the trailer thing, we ran all the numbers and said, okay, here's what our mortgage is now in our house in California. Here's how much we make. Here's our expenses. Here's how much our net amount of money we have at the end of the month is right now. And then we said, okay, if we lose that and we buy this trailer, here's our trailer payment. Here's our new truck payment. I'm going to sell the car. I'm going to lose that payment. Here's our our estimated expenses living in a trailer and propane and whatever, things like that. And so even though we were making less than 50% of the income we used to, our expenses dropped drastically. And so we are actually doing better
Right. Yeah.
when we did
crazy,
that.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that, they're like, that doesn't make sense. And like, it doesn't make any sense, but you just have to have the cojones to do it. Just go and do it. And that's it.
And what I love with that is, cause I hear, and I'm sure you guys probably have heard it before too, where, like you said, okay, the nanny thing, when are we ready to have a baby, for example? So I love that you guys took that, basically that action where it's like, no, let's do it. Cause even if you plan a pregnancy, for example, you still not ready until you're in that world. So I love that you took that action. So Dan was talking about like the heating situation, like during winters. How was that? Like,
it was terrible.
Yeah,
it was
terrible.
stinking terrible. It was like you could never get it warmer than like 65, and we would be running like space heaters.
Coming from California.
Dude, that's crazy. That is so cold.
No,
We'd be
it got-
shivering
you
on
were
the couch.
probably okay, though, right?
He's like, what? It's fine.
He said, my igloo in Alaska was better.
exaggerating a little bit because she's the Cali girl. Like I still have thick blood from my Alaskan years, but it got warm in there. It was keeping up. The problem is that we were burning through propane so fast that propane became an expense that we did not consider. And it was like, whoa, the propane cost is killing us. So we got a space heater and plugged that inside to help. So that the heater didn't have to be going as much. But still, it was still going through really quick. And
knowing what we know now, like we could like put insulation underneath and skirted it and do it like we didn't know anything.
Or is there like a way to plug in like gas to it from the house? I don't know. It doesn't matter now, but yeah.
Well, I'm sure
it doesn't matter now.
The first winter that we got here was so I got out in November of 17, and we drove straight here and got here and we parked and we worked on the mouse house for 1 week, and we were like, this is too cold, we're out of here. So we took off and went down to Florida and stuff for a couple months, and we came back in March because it was like, oh look, the weather's getting nice, all right, let's go back and get to work. So that was when we officially like moved here to stay. It was March of 2018, and that was also when we first learned about fake spring and the second winter and all that kind of stuff. And so so we still had to deal with some cold.
Did you guys sell the property that you had in California then?
Yeah.
And what's the mouse house doing now?
It's a rental for us. So originally we rented it out as a college rental. It's 5-bed, 2-bath. And then we had some girl college tenants. They called the city and complained about a ducting issue or something. And it was like beautifully remodeled, but there was like a little duct issue. It's fine. So they called and ratted themselves out on the whole more than three people living in a place.
People.
So then it was like December and they had to get kicked out. Because
that's karma. That's karma.
The girls were really mad at the one, you know, and it was like it was a bedroom that was added into the house, and there just wasn't any actual ducting to it, but it stayed warm and it stayed cool. We just didn't have like an actual like register put into that room, and whatever, we didn't know what we were doing.
It's funny. We've had a few families actually that have called a city, and then the city calls CPS, for example.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like, and once again, I mean, being faithful, like I'm sure we're trying our best to, especially all the work you guys did. It's like, that's a brand new house. Like, come on,
and we would have figured it out,
but then
whatever
it's
the
like,
issue
okay,
was.
well,
But
now we have to find new tenants in December,
right?
For a 5-bedroom. And so,
can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean by that? If you could explain that to our viewers. December in Nebraska.
Yeah, December in Nebraska. Obviously, there's snow on the ground. Nobody wants to move. Everybody kind of just trying to stay put. And then the main tenant base for that area was all college students, because like 24th and Y Street is right by the college. It's like kind of a hood spot, and we're trying to get like top dollar for it. So, we wouldn't be able to find like super normal individuals that would want that and for the price that we wanted. So we actually ended up running it to a program, and now it's a sober living house. So 2 of our rentals we rent to the program, and they fill the rooms essentially. So we shouldn't have to ever turn it over, and that was like a big thing for us. So we get a little bit less in rent, but we don't have to do the turnovers, and it's really cool.
Super passive, super hands off. They're great tenants, and they all have chores, and they keep the place super clean. They're the cleanest tenants we've ever had because of the structure of the program, and they take care of all the maintenance outside and everything like that. And
so it's definitely a blessing to have that city come out and be like,
and the timing, was perfect on it. It really was. It was just one of those things where where God's making a move, and we don't know what's happening. We're like, oh, why is this happening? But then it turns out to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so we have 2 houses like that now, and I think it's really cool that we get to give back to, like you're saying, like the sober community or the people that are trying to get sober. Almost all of these guys that are living in those 2 houses are coming out of either prison or rehab.
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's kind of like a transitional thing, but they could stay in as long as they want, and then they really get the help in
it's amazing. So it turned out to be a blessing for other people as well. So you got that house, the Mouse House, and then so what happens from there? So you got that one rented. What was the next few moves after that then?
So before we even got that one rented, we bought a duplex.
Okay.
And then we bought the house across the street from the duplex.
Because of our sign.
Yep. And then so we
really?
ended up,
So it was just off market deals, people calling you from the signs?
Well, we put a sign in front of that
the duplex,
and then that we got a call on that house next door, and that was the house we moved into.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The trailer, yeah.
Nice. So that was the next one.
Bandit sign?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we did a flip that year. So we did those 4. Oh, and then we bought a house, another rental house.
Okay.
So we did like those 4 deals the first year.
Okay.
Like
officially into the business.
Yeah.
So with that, like, what happened with the trailer then? Like, did you guys move it to the next house, or was that one livable, or like how was that?
That trailer went through like 2 or 3 projects before we could finally move into the house that we bought for ourselves, and we kind of flipped that while we lived in it. We still have the trailer; it's at storage. We're actually getting ready to take it out next month to a little family vacation up to Minneapolis. We're going up for my sister's wedding, but
nice.
So we still got that thing. It's still.
I was gonna say, like, you probably don't want to get rid of it.
I don't.
Right?
I have a lot of sentimental value on that thing now. Like,
I want to flip it and make it all cute. Like,
yeah.
Flip it out like this.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah, it's one of those where you want to keep it for the rest of your life, but because it's a great story, I love it. Okay, so you did all that, and then what about? So that was the first year, then, right?
Yeah.
So what about the second year? How did the second year go?
So same kind of thing. We're just kind of buying maybe a rental or 2, but we kind of got tapped out. So that was where we started hitting up against our debt to income ratios. We weren't in business long enough. Okay. All of these different kind of issues. And so we kept kind of switching up how we would buy. I would get like a partner to be able to co-sign. So it would be somebody that made a lot of money, had a good credit score. So that he or she would kind of be carrying the loan part of it. And I would just pay him like X amount of dollars per month for them to sign on the note, essentially.
So the deals, so the year before that, were you guys doing like the just down payment and getting bank loans, basically? Okay.
Yeah, 30-year Fannie Mae, conventional investment.
Yeah.
So a little bit higher interest rate.
Okay.
But
and we had
quickly
a great debt to income ratio because we didn't have a house.
Yeah.
They were like, wait, where do you live at? What? Like,
don't worry about it. Don't ask questions.
Just give us the house. But then we kept hitting up on that debt to income ratio. So we're like, all right, well, we need to start flipping more. So we started flipping. We were flipping it with hard money. And so we did that just kind of repetitively. And then when 2020 hit, we kind of thought, okay, this is very potentially the top of the market. Like, I felt like I've been feeling that since 2013, and it just keep going up and up and up, But I was like, if this is the top of the market, I don't want these. Like, we looked at all of our properties and we're like, we have an Airbnb and I hate it. Like, it's such a time suck. And we have all these 100-year-old houses that are just like where?
I mean,
what
they were nice
right,
rentals,
but what are they going to look like 50 years from now?
And I was gonna say, I can't remember on social media. I saw one of you two basically saying, "Okay, we're getting rid of all our rentals." Like, is that essentially what happened then? And what did you see in flipping? Then was it like just building more cash?
Well, our goal was always to buy rentals and have passive income because our dream is to travel. We want to be able to take the kids while they're young and while we're young and be able to see the world. And so that was the name of the game. But once we hit that wall where we could not buy any more rentals, we were like, we need to find another source of income. So we started flipping. We never had an intention of flipping.
That's amazing.
But once we started, we realized, hey, we're pretty good at this, So we realized, okay, if we can sell these rentals, it's like, the market's great for it. We'll get some cash. We can take that cash and just go hard into flipping and start building more money so that when the market does turn,
we can just buy everything on a fire sale.
Yeah.
But now we're
But it
just,
hasn't happened.
that hasn't happened yet. But now we're just flipping. You know? And but we're buying rentals now too. But
we're just being extremely picky about
picky about it now.
our rentals too. Like
buying new
we're
stuff.
30, whatever, and we want to say, okay, if I live to 80, it's gonna be another 50 years. So I don't want anything really like rental wise that's gonna be older than like 80s. You know? And we had so many 100-year-old houses. Just no. And I don't want college students anymore.
I love that with your story, that basically, and I say this over and over to people, that this is why real estate is the best thing you could ever do, because you know, you started with this plan, and then you it's okay to change your plan as the things start coming to you, right? And you change the plan, and I mean, great transition, because now I would love to talk about some of the flips that you did or you know, that you've done. We're sitting in one right now, but so essentially, what was the first flip then that you guys like did?
Well, the first
like here or
here.
Okay. Because the first one, go to our website and read the blog.
I think this is important. First flip we did was a long distance flip. We're living in Southern California. We bought it in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We lost $20,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So we learned a ton though. When I bought that house, they were like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, it's in escrow. It's in escrow. I'm like, what does that actually mean? It's in escrow. Like I thought they put a tent around it or something. They moved the house into it. And I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. But we'll find out, you know, just buy a house and figure it out. So we made like every single mistake possible. And then some. We got creative with how many mistakes we can make in that one deal.
Definitely college then.
Yeah.
And after that, we were like, okay, so are we going to keep trying to do this? Or are we going to go try something else? And we had to reassess. And I said,
like,
well,
we
let's
know
try
exactly
one
what
more
not
because
to
I want
do.
that money back.
That was your very, very first.
Yeah.
Very, very
Wow.
first. Yeah.
Good for you for getting back up from that.
Seriously. At least it's not like the casinos where you go and lose
Keep
that night and keep going and you keep losing.
Yeah, the second one was like a live-in flip in California, and we end up making $80,000 on it. So
Okay.
we're like, all right,
So
cool.
so
Yeah.
I like your attitude, because that's kind of how I feel about my current flip. The last one that I did wasn't like, I didn't lose money, but I didn't do great. So I'm like, I got to redeem myself.
But you learned something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's
I was gonna ask. So you had mentioned your bandit signs.
Mhm.
So I kind of want to get into a little bit of like your marketing for these.
Okay.
Because 34 houses in 3 years. That's it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And if you're using bandit signs, do you use that in? I guess maybe if you can explain what bandit signs are, so people that don't know what they are.
Yeah, they're just like signs that are like 1 foot by 2 foot or whatever, and they stick in the grass. And so they're kind of a trashy thing. I feel like always like a criminal when I put them out on the corner.
It's like a real quick and run away.
I was like waiting so there's like no cars driving by.
Or I'll like try to con somebody else into doing it. I'll like, I'll pay you $100 to do this. And they're like, is this legal? I'm like, shh, don't ask questions. Let's do it.
Is it? Because isn't that like a weird thing with some cities? Like,
Yeah, and so here they start calling, and so our bandit signs have our like website on the bottom. They're branded essentially. So I don't really do that anymore, except for in front of our properties that we
Gotcha.
own. Nobody's in care.
But you seem to have some pretty good success from them early, maybe? Or were you doing mailers? Or how?
Okay,
Well,
so
if there weren't so many others out there, maybe, but it's like it's like bandit signs, postcards, you know, a lot of that stuff is so oversaturated now that you know, we're not doing a lot of those things because they're not working.
So
anymore.
what are you doing
we've
then?
tried everything. Honestly, we've done like the bandit signs, the postcards, the cold calling, the
And for a time, a lot of
Facebook.
they all worked, or we got a lead or two from all of those different things. And then after COVID, everything changed, and nothing worked anymore. And so actually this year, last year, cold calling was pretty effective for us. And then this year, nothing. Nobody can find
everybody last year that was working so good.
Well, it's the whole reason why the market's so crazy right now is because the supply and demand's off. Nobody's selling, and so like we couldn't find anybody selling. If they were, it was outrageous prices that we couldn't do anything with. So we shut that all off, and right now we're just really focusing on the networking thing. All of our deals we've gotten this year have been through people that we know because of the branding and reputation that we've built for doing quality work. So I have other real estate agents calling me saying, hey, you know, I got this potential listing coming up and they just want somebody to come make it beautiful. And we know that's what you guys do. And so we'll come in and we'll just work it out. Or
just a lot of people. So we've just really been kind of tackling that and just trying to grow the network because they're the best leads, and they've been the most consistent for us, at least since COVID. So.
And they're free, essentially. I mean, you have to know a lot of people, and it's hard to scale that up. Like, how do you scale up knowing people? Like,
especially when we're in a town that we just moved here from, you know, so at
Yeah.
first that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Like Josh Nix was one of the first people we met here in Lincoln. And he used to have just so many deals. He'd be flipping houses like crazy, and then he'd be wholesaling a whole bunch as well, because he just couldn't even keep up with them all. And I asked him, I was like, where do you get all these deals, man? Like, what is your secret? What are you doing? He's like, just networking. Yeah. I'm like, no, but what are you doing? Like, the marketing part of it is like, I don't market. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But he's, you know, the local guy. He's got a big network. Yeah. And and now that our network is growing a little bit, I'm realizing that is true. That works.
It's a secret sauce.
It's such a long game thing, though, too. You know, like when you hit the ground, you can't just be like, oh, look at me, I'm so dope. And like, just everybody just send me the deals. It's like not going to happen. Yeah. And so you have to do whatever it takes. Like I said before, like maybe you have to buy the 100-year-old houses at first. You have to just deal with the suck, you know? And you have to send out your postcards and get deals which way you can. Lowball the MLS.
There's really no skipping any steps, you know, because they're all crucial in getting you to the next step, and they're all crucial in the education part of it as well. So,
and I'm sure this will be book of the week one of these days, but I'm reading a book by Gaines right now, and he's big on network. And I mean, one of the quick stories that this reminds me of is like, he says that any business card he would grab at Home Depot or anywhere he would go, that he just kept a stash, and you know, the person kind of that he put in perspective of watching him basically said, now I see why. You know, his network is just huge. So the perfect example.
So you're saying he like would leave his cards everywhere?
No. He would gather around, basically meeting people. Oh, so if you gave him his card, he wouldn't, throw it away. He would keep it. He had a stash basically, which I have a stash, but I want to, I don't know, incorporate that somehow. I don't know. I need to buy something. I think
there's like an app you can get on your phone where you can take a picture of it and then like digitally file it, so you have it all there, a little bit more reasonable.
Nice, yeah.
I like that, because otherwise a drawer full of business cards that my daughter will have all over the house and be eating and
yeah, for sure. No, go ahead.
I don't know where I was going to go with it.
No, and I know where I want to go now. So basically, if you could run through real quick on some of the deals that you did then. So was it on the third year where you guys started really just getting into flips then?
Well, no. I mean, we couldn't get any more loans. So we started flipping on hard money. And that's in itself is a step that holds a lot of people back, because they go, oh, the interest rates on those is crazy. But it's like, but if it's a deal, it's a deal. Yeah. And if you can make money, you can make money. You can sit back and go, oh, the interest rates, and make nothing, or you can just make some money. And so that's what we did. So we
made some money,
developed some relationships, and found a hard money lender. And they were obviously at first they're going to really evaluate the deal, and they're going to make sure it's a good deal, because they don't really know you. They don't know if you're going to do what you say you're going to do. They don't know what you know. But then once you do that and develop that relationship, it's like now we have multiple people that will give us any amount of money, and they don't even care what the address is. They're just like, yeah, do it. Yeah. Please make my money grow.
You know what I think? Like, you ask, okay, so how are we marketing? Because right now, like if you ask almost any investor in town, you'd be like, how's your deal flow? Not great, right? It's hard to find deals right now. And I would even say, dude, it's super hard to find deals, but I got 5 of them going right now. It's so hard. Yeah. But I think that we can find those deals because we know that we can push our ARV higher than other flippers. And so we can bid like literally so many times, especially during COVID and all that. We were sending out postcards. We would talk to sellers and they'd be like, I got this postcard, everybody. And they would just go down the list and call all 10 of us and have us all walk in.
I've done that before.
And bid it. And it's like, okay, first of all, this sucks. But also, even if it is in that situation, sometimes we could still be the highest bid. Like we just sold a flip. One of the other big guys in town walked it and he's like, yeah, I thought it was going to be like a 160 house and we sold it for 210.
Mm,
You know, so if we
mhm.
know we can push that end, even though we're spending a little more money on our project, we know we can push the back end and we can pay for it more for it on the front end.
Yeah.
So
And that's just came from, you know, like we just have pride in everything that we do, and you know, we want to beautify Lincoln, and we want to do some good for the community, and we didn't want to just be flippers trying to make a buck, you know, and we don't want to just be buying houses, put as little money into it as possible, put lipstick on a pig, and then try to sell it for outrageous price. And there's already too much of that out there, and that's why there's that bad stigma against real estate investors and flippers and things. And so we're like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We're going to be the nice homes that people can be proud of, even if they are first time home buyers. And that was just kind of always our goal. And so it's just worked out well for us in that regard, because I mean, everything sells really quick, and people are, I mean, it's a different way of doing things. And that's also why we can push that ARV, because we have that wow factor. You know, it's when we first started flipping, and I would list it on the market, I would have agents call me on a regular basis and go, "Oh yeah, I'm calling about your address at blah 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 street. You know, is that, you know, vacant? Can I go take a look at it?" Yeah, go for it. And they're like, "I'm just gonna go look myself before I bring my clients in. I just want to check out the quality of work and blah blah." I don't get those calls anymore.
They know.
You know, now
they're
people
like,
now I have agents calling me going, "Hey, what do you have coming soon? Like, what do you have upcoming? I want to know.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
that's amazing. So you definitely took your brand to a whole other level where, yeah, so the brand speaks for itself. I love it. So how did that transition? I want to pick a little more on the, so you ended up selling a few doors then. And I'm assuming obviously even that alone, you made money too, right? Like kind of flipping the rentals.
Yeah. Some of them we just about broke even on, but it was worth it for us, because we thought if it does, the market softens or goes down, we don't want to have to hold them for another 7 years. We would rather just break even on them. So we did kind of break even on a couple. We made some money on a couple. Nothing life changing, because we didn't own them for that long, right? Like a year and a half or something. So it was like
the duplex we bought on 0% down VA loan.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's like, it's hard to turn around and sell that shortly and not lose money, but we didn't. And I mean, but part of that strategy too was because, you know, we were hitting that wall on lending. And so we were like, okay, we can't use any of our rental income yet because we have less than 2 years landlord experience. And like any income that we do make now is not going to be counted as income because we don't have the experience or whatever. So we were like, we need to start having our LLC making some money, and we got to stop writing things off to save money in taxes, because when we write things off, we don't have to pay taxes, but then the banks are like, you don't make any money on paper. So we bit the bullet last year, sold a bunch of rentals, flipped like crazy, and then paid the taxes. And then now, even though we averaged last year's with the previous year of nothing, the banks are like, hey, that looks pretty good. All right. Hey, you want some money?
Yeah.
And then after this year, we're going to have 2 years that they're going to average together of solid, actual income. And so then we're going to be looking really
great. Yeah.
But we had to make that decision and say, okay, we got to stop writing everything off and just pay the taxes. And, I mean, it was a pretty big tax bill, but it was worth it.
Yeah. It's like you're taking in basically, like such a great lesson, because I've been there myself. It's easy to be like, oh, I'm writing everything down, or writing everything off. But and I definitely believe that's the golden ticket. You have to do what you have to do to for sure.
There's no getting around Uncle Sam. I did 12 years in the military. This guy knows. And well, I guess I won't say that. He knows how to get around. Yeah. He knows how to get you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, obviously you guys have some really good synergy with what you're doing. You're super successful with your flipping business. And even from when you decided, hey, we're just going to change things around. What roles do each of you play in the business that helps you be so successful? Because I get the feeling that you guys aren't getting in each other's lanes. Like you kind of, what your role is, and that's what you stick to.
When we first started out, we had to kind of like try some things out, but we also did a personality test where it honestly was super eye-opening for me to understand Jeff, for him to understand me, and for us to understand ourselves. Really, like what it came down to is I'm a thinker and he's a doer. And so that works really well for us because I'd be like, talk to me about your hopes and dreams. And he's like, no, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, you know? And so, and then I have all these great ideas, but I hate the follow through, like that tedious actually doing it part. So we have like very distinct roles in our business. And we, like you said, we don't cross over into each other's lanes really.
Yeah.
So
Like
I was thinking, what are those roles?
Oh, well, so my personality test was the logistician, you know, so like if you give me something, give me a task, that's all I need. And then I can work out all the details. I can come with a plan, I can execute, and it will happen flawlessly. And that's largely from being in the Marine Corps. And that was the way it worked. I got told to do all the time, and then we had to figure it out. And so that's kind of what I wanted. And when I left the Marine Corps, I was still kind of like, I had been told what to do for 12 years. And so I was like, babe, just tell me what to do, please, and I'll do it. Like I can do anything. I just need to know. I couldn't get myself to really figure out how to be proactive and especially learning something completely new. But so it took us a little bit of time to kind of figure out what those roles were.
And now at this point, it's like Jeff is the realtor. So he is like amazing at answering his phone. Pretty much if you call me, I will not answer my phone.
He's like a 10% answer
doing
rate.
The emails. If I get an email that has like more than one paragraph, I just forward it to him. I'm like, deal with this. I want to read it.
Well, especially now with it gives you the text. It makes it easier.
So last year it was pretty much just like, hey, you find the deals as fast as you can and I'll flip the deals as fast as I can.
So
I do the
from
project.
your network thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
So. Like you were finding them through that networking.
Or just
anything.
any way that we were trying at whatever point in time.
He's also a realtor, so he can like grab that MLS stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and he's writing offers on things that are maybe listed for a long time or whatever.
Gotcha. Then you pick it up from there.
And then I pick it up from there, and then I'm running the project. So I'm essentially the project manager, GC on all of our projects. I do the design part of it, and then handle all of our contractors. Which honestly, like. I used to run grocery stores, and somebody was talking to me a couple days ago. I'm like, how do you just manage all these contractors? And it's like, I used to run grocery stores. And so it's essentially just like running around in circles, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so that managing people like really trained me to be able to manage like a lot of different moving parts like that. And then once it's done, I stage it, and I own a staging business. So I just come in and stage it and then do the pictures. And then Jeff takes it from there and says, all the listing paperwork, market it,
gets it sold and
it.
all
it's like
that.
a relay race.
And then I do the project, property management. So all of our rentals, and I deal with the
tenants
tenants and the maintenance and things like that. So, so it works out really, really good. And at first I always thought that I would be dealing with the project management because I was like, well, I was in the Marine Corps. I know how to lead. I know how to deal with people, and I do. But turns out so does she, you know, and she could not be a realtor. I can tell you that much. She would have lost her license day 3. She does not know how to follow rules.
Yeah.
She does not know how to follow dumb rules, and there's a lot of dumb rules. And I was in the
I
military.
do know that's stupid.
I'm really good at following stupid rules.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at keeping my mouth shut when you're around dumb people. You're just, So it works out good, you know. And as far as like the property management side, I still get to kind of like, you know, deal with the maintenance, things like that. And I'm handy, so I'm good with all the tools and stuff. And I miss working on the houses, but you know, we weren't going to be able to keep growing if I was still in the houses doing the work. So, yeah, it took us a little bit of time to figure out what those roles were, but once we figured it out, it just worked and it settled right in. And
wow.
So
with you doing all the work and working with all the contractors and that, you know, we talked off air that you're a minority in this business, being a woman that essentially flipping houses. You know, what kind of challenges have you? Because I've listened to other podcasts where women go on, and like, what kind of crap have you dealt with being a woman and working with these contractors?
So I can have a chip on my shoulder a little bit, but my dad raised me to be like, anything that a man can do, you can do, that kind of thing. And so I was always kind of a tomboy. I did a lot of cool stuff. Like as a kid, I used to race like the Baja 1000 and like rebuild trucks and stuff. So I have that kind of mentality of like, anything you could do, I could do. I just maybe have to do it differently. Like you could carry 2 boxes of tile, but I can only carry one at a time, but I could carry them twice as fast, you know? And so, there are people that will look at me and think, oh, well, she's just a woman and I don't need to take her seriously and I'm going to give her a higher bid because she's a woman. And there's all those things. But if a contractor is that way, I just don't work with them. Like there's enough contractors in town that won't be like that I could just, like, I don't want to work with you, you know? And I think one of the big things is like, one time we went to an inspection and it was on one of our first deals here. And I would ask a question and the guy would answer to Jeff every time. And then I started just asking more and more questions just to be like, is this for real? Like I need to confirm this. And then, all right, I'll just never use you ever again. That's your loss. That's not my loss. I don't even get inspections anymore. Joke's on you, you know? And neither do my buyers because my houses are that tight, right? But, and then some people will say, oh yeah, do you need to check with your husband? No, I don't need to check with my husband because I called you. I'm telling you what the scope of work is, you know? So you get that kind of like little chip on your shoulder, but you also have to think like anything that could be considered a negative could also be a positive, right? Like you're Mexican, right? Nicaraguan, totally different. Like Salvadorian.
Yeah.
Dude, boom. I did my research.
You're like, where in Mexico is that now?
If you're in California, they're all Mexican.
Yeah. Well, no, when I was in New York, I was Puerto Rican, so.
Yeah. But like that could be, you could be like, okay, some people are going to judge me because I'm brown. And then some people, you're going to be able to be a foot in the door because you're brown, right? Because you can speak Spanish.
Right.
And the same thing, like with me being a woman, some people are going to be kind of losers to work with because of it. And I'm just going to not work with them. And sometimes I'm going to walk in and they might be more sweet to me because I'm a woman. And so going through it in the beginning when I was like, just really humble about like, hey, I don't really know anything. Like I'm just a dumb girl. Could you just explain this to me? Or like, how does this work? And then I feel like they're kind of more like, oh, she's a damsel in distress. Like she obviously needs some help, you know, and they'll just be more like mansplaining stuff. And so I could learn more. Whereas if Jeff was like, hey, so what about this? They would think he was checking up on them, you know?
Yeah.
And so anything could be a positive or a negative. And even like, okay, we're addicts, right? Like 100% we're addicts. And regardless of whether we're sober now, that's a personality type. So we're still addicts. We're just addicted to working out and buying houses and making money and like all that. Like it could be a negative. It could be a positive.
You can have a constructive or a destructive
addiction.
Awesome. You just got to pick what your addiction is, you know. But on that note, before I forget, I've had this conversation with Megan before after I realized her relationship with all the contractors, because I realized it's better that she's the one managing them because like I'm a pretty nice guy until I'm not, until I get mad. But like I am pretty easygoing with things. But even if I was like handling the contractors, like man to man, when like you're having to deal with issues and things like that, or trying to get them to get into the project at a certain time or whatever, it doesn't really work that well. But with Megan, she's aggressive, she's confident, she knows what she's doing, and she gets these contractors to bend over backwards for her because
they're so great.
Because partly because she's a woman, you know. She'll call them up and they will always just boom, they make it happen because Megan, I mean, they know that she knows what she's doing. And when she goes in there and like, come on, you gotta squeeze me in this state or whatever, we gotta do this or that or blah blah blah. And they're always like, they kind of have that like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. But that would never happen for me.
They'd be like, no, Jeff.
Unless I was like dealing with female contractors, which is, you know, that's real, that's not gonna happen, you know, like and there was some sort of, you know, I don't know, but I think that there's just something I think that people are attracted to strong, independent, confident women. And there's not, you know, I don't want to get in trouble for saying, but I don't feel like there's enough of that out there. You know, like I see how her dad raised her and it's like, that's amazing. I want to raise my daughters that way because if I do, I know that they will be successful no matter what. And
that's a huge compliment, Megan.
I know.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, it's a huge contrast because I grew up with 4 sisters and I was the only boy. And there's like a very big difference between like how they were raised and how they are now versus how she was raised and how she is now. And it has everything to do with the father and how he raised the confidence in that. So
yeah. No, I love it. Definitely, I think of that every day almost with my daughters, like, for sure. But no, I love it. Do you have anything to add, Dan? You like,
No,
are you about to cry right now? Like,
that's such a good moment. Oh my God. I'm gonna go home and give my wife a great compliment.
Well, I'm just saying, like, she gets those guys to
No, I
perform
mean,
we
for
love
her
it, yeah.
in a way that,
Yeah.
that no man ever would be.
But
able
like I
to.
said, you're taking a situation that could be, a weakness, and you're making it into a strength. So that's awesome. And I think that's a lot of like the theme we hear about just in general of what we do is taking something that could be a bad situation and just looking at it from a different perspective, and then it's going to turn out to be a good one. So, but no, I didn't have anything. I had a little tear in my eye.
Yeah, I saw that. That's why I wanted to make sure. But no, I love this. So you guys have all these LLCs now, and Stager, and then, well, you're an agent, like all these great things that go along with the business. So now it's just booming. so I love it. And I want to ask you guys the questions that we ask at the end of our show to all our guests. But there's this other one that I would love to ask that because I know you guys read, right? You guys read a lot, and so I love reading or audible. But what's one book that has stood out? Like since you started this journey or whatever, just a self-help book that it could be a business one or finances or love or whatever.
Okay, I got one. It's called Getting Things Done. And I don't know who the author is.
I can see the cover.
I know, I can see it. It's like standing there.
Yeah.
But it's just like so super practical. And I feel like when we started in real estate, we're like, I'm so busy, like I can barely do this, right? I can barely think about it or function and like get these things done. And then now we're doing like 5 deals at one time. So it's like just like a huge, huge stretch in capacity over the time. But I don't think I would have been able to do that and keep everything like flowing well without that book.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you got, Jeff?
Man, I don't know. I gotta think here. I've read a lot of good ones. I'm trying to think of one that had like the most kind of impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess for me, Megan's she likes the books about becoming more effective. It's kind of her thing. Not to say that I have a lot of room for growth in that area, but for me, I like to read books more like the mindset part of things because I know that's what holds people back the most. I know that's what holds me back the most. So I don't know, like the most recent one that I've read, which isn't really anything about real estate, but it was actually called Think Like a Monk. And then there's another one that was called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. And both of those had a really big impact on me because I have never been able to just like sit in my own thoughts. I'm a doer, so I just get busy and I just do things. And I hate being bored. I can't sit around and just chit chat and stuff. Like I gotta go do something. I've always been that way. And I've always been like going at 100 miles an hour. So now for me to be a business owner in so many different like capacities, I really had to learn how to like take a step back and be able to like kind of think through things and kind of figure out, just be more intentional about that kind of stuff. And I can't just rely on Megan to tell me what to do all the time. And once I got to that point, and it was hard too, because I was just being in the military so long. I went from being in the Marine Corps for 12 years to being a business owner, just like that. It was a crazy transition. So, so those books really helped me out a lot with just kind of figuring out how to slow down, how to kind of just be still and really figure out like what is important, what is the direction I'm trying to do, what are the steps I need to do to take to get there, and then I can start coming up with a plan and doing the doing part that I wanted to do. So
love it. No, I love it. And I'll transition into that with our first question. If you guys would write a book, what would be the title and the theme of it?
Well, I've thought about this actually.
Watch out, folks.
Stillness, huh?
I mean, like, I don't know if I'll ever write a book. It sounds terrible, to be honest, but I just know, I'm 34, and I'll let you tell your age if you want to, but we're we're fairly young still,
Mhm.
but like I wish we had gotten started in this endeavor a lot sooner because we could be, potentially already traveling,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
but we wouldn't have been mature enough at that point. So it's just kind of the way
Perfect
things work.
timing.
Yeah, but I realize even talking to friends that are our own age, like we have so much life experience compared to other people our age. Like we have done so many more things in so many different capacities and been to so many more places because of just how we've lived our lives. That it's like we have just kind of like a wealth of knowledge,
Mhm.
not that and just on just so many different things.
Mhm.
And I've just kind of thought about, if I keep going down this path, I'll probably have a lot of good content to write a book about,
Mhm.
when I get, bored or something. But
Mhm.
I always thought that I would, I dwell a lot on people's intentions on things. I kind of, it's just one of how my brain works. And so I'm a people watcher, so I see a lot of what's going on behind the scenes that most people don't pick up on. And so, like,
Mhm.
all of those things kind of encompass in my thoughts and how I perceive the world around me. And so, I always thought there would be like a combination of like what I've learned and how I don't know, how it can affect um, just like society as a whole. Like, if other people kind of could like wrap their mind around certain things and then
Mhm.
kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain.
Mhm.
But I always thought the book would be life,
What's the
liberty.
title?
Yeah, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Basically,
Can I
'Cause
pre-order
that
it?
would be
Can
my
I
whole
pre-order
story.
it?
It's like a little bit,
You just got the whole audiobook right there.
well, I mean, I didn't know this question was coming, so I had to like kind of.
Yeah.
I've never even really thought that much about
Yeah.
what it would be about,
You're
except for
welcome.
that, life, liberty, and like the pursuit of happiness, and like
Yeah.
the journey that it took to get there, and the step, like, and what it kind of did for
Yeah.
me, and how it kind of everything unfolded.
Like your
and,
experience. Yeah.
So a
No,
little bit
love
of
it.
like everything, and just kind of, I don't know.
What do you have, Megan?
Let's see you
Still,
do
I don't
better.
know.
Yeah.
That's hard to follow.
That was a lot.
I was trying to give you time to think
Dude,
because I
it
knew
would-
you didn't have nothing.
I don't know. It would be like just do it, but Nike already has that, right? Isn't that their thing?
Yeah.
But like that's like my whole strategy.
it
I
could
feel
be
like
like-
I could literally sum up all of our journey and like literally just do it. Like
It could be
Yep.
just break it.
just break it.
Yeah. Well, that was like the thing that she mentioned about that before.
With my
Like,
the racing.
yeah. So go ahead.
So like okay, so when we would race the Baja 1000 in an old Ford Bronco, right? But it was like super souped up. So pretty much like none of the parts were actually Bronco parts, or like just beefed up, fabricated. So the whole thing is like to prepare for this one race, you go all year long just trying to break it and then build it stronger. So you could drive this truck forever and it would never break
It's
if you're
such a
just
cool
driving.
idea.
Yeah.
Like,
If you're just driving on the freeway, it'll never break down.
Mhm.
So you have to you have to go fast, you have to jump it, you have to rock crawl it, you have to like just go break it,
Mhm.
and then wherever it broke is like obviously the weakest point, and so then you build that part up stronger and stronger. And I feel like in our business that's what we've done, where we're just like, all right, go fast, and then like crap is just the wheels are flying off, like our hair's on fire,
Yeah.
and then we're like, okay, that's the part that's the weakest part. We need to do this
Mhm.
differently. We need to rebuild it. We need to rethink this one spot. And then, okay, we're like stabilizing that. Like, let's go break it again.
Yeah.
Let's grow.
If you don't put it under enough stress, then you won't know what's going to be the play. I mean, like,
Yeah.
And that's a scary method for people, but that's what works for us.
Yeah.
You
But
can
it's
play
all
it
the
safe,
business
and it can
side.
be a really,
Yeah.
real long game. But
Yeah, no, take action. So
Yeah.
Love it. And then if there was a 3-step formula to success, what are the 3 steps?
Do it. Just keep doing it. Do it some more.
So taking action.
Just do
learn.
it.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's just about doing it. I mean, obviously there has to be some education piece in there, like even with the risk, calculated risk, or learn a little bit and then try, and then just do it. And don't be scared to fail, because if you fail, that's the only way you're going to succeed. Like, every successful person has failed multiple times. And the only people that have not failed are the people that don't fail are not successful. They might have some pretty good mediocre job or this or that, or playing it safe, but we failed plenty of times, but it's never held us back. We've always learned from it, and then
been able to grow past that. So just do it. And when you fail, do it again. I don't know. I guess that would be the 3 steps, because you will fail. So execute, fail, and then execute again. I don't know.
Yeah, no, love it. Do you agree with that, Megan, or do you have something different?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's as good as it's going to get on the fly, I guess.
No, I love it. And then the last question is, if you looked at your younger self, what would be one piece of advice you would give for yourself?
Don't look at me. I can
So I know.
Dan's crying. Stop crying.
My regret is that, I always knew. I mean, everybody gets the same advice. Like, don't blow your money, save it up. Be smart about things, yada yada. But we all are young, and we're like, oh no, party, or whatever. And I was terrible with my money. I spent every penny of it. I was just trying to have a good time. And I wish that I hadn't. So, like, I remember even being in the barracks with some roommates that just never left the room, and they had money. And they just saved up paycheck after paycheck after paycheck. And, and if that was me, then I could have gotten started in this at a much earlier age. And, but I couldn't. So it took me getting medically retired and getting the severance and having that severance and going, okay, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can do something with it. But I could have, I mean, that's not a possibility for everybody. Not everyone's going to get injured and get a severance. So how is you going to ever get started into it if you're living paycheck to paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
You have to start somewhere. You have to start making the tough decisions to want more for your life and be able to have the discipline to do that. So I would have told myself to stop spending money like a retard. And just,
Love it. Megan?
I don't know. It's like I made like a ton of bad choices in my life, but I feel like I also wouldn't have go back and change them, because it like got us to here. I think that like somebody that's starting out, just I don't know. Like, so when we first started doing this, Mom was like, you guys are nut jobs. Like, don't listen to haters. Like you were saying that earlier in the intro, like people are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think that it's not going to work. And like we did a seminar. We didn't even touch on this, but we did like one of those real estate seminars. We paid like buku bucks to get started. And I literally did not tell my dad about it before we paid the money, because I was like, he's going to talk me out of it, And if you know yourself and know, like, I can do anything I set my mind to, and I'm going to set my mind to this. If you're that kind of a person, like, just do it. Don't listen to anybody around you that's saying it's not going to work. Oh, you're going to get all the calls in the middle of the night. Like, it's fine. Get the calls in the middle of the night. What else are you doing? Like, if you didn't have to work for somebody else forever, or you could work for yourself for like 10 years and then be set, like,
Right.
Take the calls in the middle of the night, but just make it happen.
Yeah. So action. Do it.
Just do it.
Do it. I love it. And then Dan, if you want to ask your question at the end of the show.
That's the 3-step process.
What
Just
question? I was like, I have a question.
All right, I'll ask it for you.
I'll ask you a question.
What is something that somebody would bring to the table right now for you guys?
That's not like a consistent one I ask.
Wow.
But while we're on topic, what is someone like? What are you in your businesses? I mean, you have several now. What is something that you're looking for? What can people bring to you that can provide value to you guys? And obviously, it's kind of a networking thing too. But what do you guys kind of have your sights on right now? Like, what can someone bring to you?
Well, we're always looking
Bring
for
them deals.
houses, so I mean, we are trying to stay with like at least for flipping like 1950s or newer houses. But I mean, even when I drive around every day, there's distressed properties everywhere. So if anybody knows anybody who's selling, and even if it's not distressed, I could list it as an agent.
Right.
So we do offer. Like if we get a lead for a house to flip and we end up closing on it, we do pay out to a referral fee, and it's not bad. So, so it's not like we're just gonna tell people, oh yeah, send us, properties and things like that if you got any, because nobody will do it, unless, well, I mean, some people do, but we do offer cash for that as well. But
But yeah, I mean, if you're in a neighborhood and you got a house that's down the street that's an eyesore for the neighborhood, give us a call. Let us know. I mean, we like to make homes beautiful. We're trying to make Lincoln a more beautiful place. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's.
I'm gonna throw this out to the world,
The universe.
to the
Law of attraction,
universe,
there we go.
the whole 47 people that listen.
And growing.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
growing.
there you go.
I want a show.
You want a show? Like
yeah.
a TV show?
Yeah, so like everyone we run into is like, oh, why don't you have an HGTV show yet? And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't I? Do you know somebody? So like at first Jeff was like, I would say no, absolutely not. You don't have to be on the show.
I guess I'm warming up to that. I'm warming up to the idea, I guess. I don't know. Like, okay, so I'm warming up to the idea. I don't like being in the spotlight. I don't like cameras. I don't like any of that kind of
You
stuff.
did good today.
Yeah.
But
You were natural
I
today.
have been flourishing in my getting out of my comfort zone after being so many years of being in the military and working with only same-minded, similar people for so long and never having to really interact with anyone else.
Mhm.
It was just like, I work with these guys, I party with these guys. I work with these guys, I party with these guys. Oh, we're going to deploy. I come back, I work, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I'm dealing with people again. It was very overwhelming for a while, and I'm just kind of getting better at that. So I guess I'm warming up to the idea. But
So let's say, HGTV is listening. How where can people find out more about you and get in contact with you guys? Just put it all out there.
Facebook.com/acornhuskers. So yeah. Like cornhuskers, but with an A in front.
Gotcha.
yeah.
And any Instagram or anything like that? And on your website, right? You got a website.
We have an
an
Instagram
Insta-
account, but if you go there, you won't find anything because
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do that. And I don't know.
Go
But we have Facebook, we got a website, acornhuskers.com, or at it, Acornhuskers on Facebook and acornhomestaging.com. If you just Google me as a realtor, if you're looking for that, you'll find it. It's super easy to find. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Thanks for having us. We're always like,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But you had us here, so we love it. But yeah, everybody out there listening, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, that Minority Report Podcast, and search for our YouTube channel as well, or anywhere podcasts are available. Let's get it. Vámonos.
My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority Report, can't ignore. Being rich from poor and your credit score. My hand to please don't segregate. Dressed in a suit, I can't relate. Minority Report, can't ignore. Being rich from poor and your credit score.